Hi guys, welcome to the session today. We'll be discussing the RACI chart. What is RACI? Of course, by now you must have watched the video where we spoke about identification of stakeholder. Today, we are taking it a step further by looking at the involvement of stakeholders on projects. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the videos, as well as share the links with friends. Thank you. Hi guys, welcome to the session. Today we'll be talking on RACI chart. What is RACI chart? RACI chart is a word that stands for responsible, accountable, consult, and inform. This is a chart that is leveraged in order to manage the involvement of stakeholders. I will be sharing with you how you can take a good advantage of RACI charts and, of course, deliver on projects efficiently. RACI, in order for us to continue with RACI, it is important for us to understand the involvement of stakeholder. You will remember in my previous video, I spoke about how can you identify a stakeholder, how can you analyze a stakeholder. Having the understanding of who a stakeholder is very much important, as well as the involvement of stakeholder on a project. How can this stakeholder, after being identified, how can they be managed, and how can I ensure that their involvement is properly monitored and coordinated? Apart from deciding on, of course, managing stakeholders, it is very useful in business analysis to consider the task or deliverables on projects, and of course, which stakeholders are involved in respect to this task. Let me mention quickly. Identifying the stakeholder. Number one, the task that is accrued to a stakeholder, very important to be understood, as well as are there any involvement of a stakeholder probably in any other task. It is also important to have a very good understanding of this. Let me give a very quick example. In an organization, you have been employed, for example, as a business analyst to work on a project that has got to do with a particular department. On this project, the head of finance, for example, within the finance department, is to give you information in respect to the requirement of the project. One thing that is important as far as that project is concerned is that there is a task that is associated with the business analyst, which is eliciting requirements. This business analyst is tasked primarily with eliciting the requirement. But who will the business analyst elicit the requirement from? The business analyst need to meet with the head of finance in order to elicit this requirement. And this is where the stakeholders' involvement are being identified. So in order for these requirements to be gathered, the business analyst must elicit the requirements. And in order to elicit the requirements, the business analyst needs to meet with the head of finance. I hope you can now see the definition of the involvement of stakeholder, and as such, how can we bring in RACI chart in order to ensure that the stakeholders are properly managed. A simple way, an effective method of getting this done is to create what we call a RACI chart. What does RACI stand for? The first word, which is R, stands for responsible. In order to understand what the responsibility stands for, the responsible in this context is a term of when a stakeholder who is shouldered with the primary aim of getting the task done is being identified. That is, who is responsible, who is saddled with the primary responsibility of getting the task done. Don't forget, in the previous example I gave, in respect to eliciting requirements as far as the project is concerned, the business analyst in that context is tasked with the primary aim of eliciting the requirement. So the business analyst is responsible for getting that task done. And that is how we can identify who is responsible in respect to getting a task done. Now, we move to accountable. Now, when we say accountable, what does it mean? Accountable is the person or the role who is saddled with the quality of task that is being performed. Now, when a requirement is to be elicited, who ensures that this requirement that is elicited is done properly? Who ensures that the quality of requirement that is being gathered is correct, that the quality of the requirement that is being gathered or the features of the requirement that is being gathered, are complete to a large extent? Let's take, for example, if it is in an agile environment, the Scrum Master is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring, of course, that the team performs in respect to every of their tasks. So the accountable stands for the role in any given project of whom is saddled with the responsibility of quality of task that is to be performed. And that takes us to consult. Who do you need to consult in order to get the task done? Using the example that I gave at the beginning of this session, you will agree with me that for the business analyst to elicit the requirement in respect to the requirement that is to be gathered, the business analyst need to meet with the head of finance. So the head of finance is to be consulted in order for that task to be completed. So if the business analyst, for example, is available, and the head of finance, due to one reason or another, is not available, that means that particular task of getting the requirement done cannot be completed, because the head of finance that the business analyst is to consult is not available. So in this context, the head of finance is to be consulted. So if you are to put your RACI chart together, and the question is in respect to the eliciting of requirement task, who needs to be consulted, then you easily identify that it is the head of finance that needs to be consulted. Who is saddled with the primary aim of getting the task done? What task? Eliciting requirements. That is the business analyst. In order to ensure that the requirement gathered is complete, is correct, who is saddled with that responsibility of the quality of what is being done? Of course, in an agile environment, that can be termed as the Scrum Master. And if it is a waterfall environment, that can be termed as, of course, the project manager, or as the case may be. Who needs to be informed? This is also another role that is very essential when we are talking about the RACI chart, or when we are talking about the stakeholders' involvement. In respect to the requirement that is to be elicited, who needs to be informed about this requirement? Now, let me put this to you quickly. If you are eliciting requirements as a business analyst, there are other stakeholders on the project team that relies on that document that you will be populating in order to initiate their process. For example, the solution designer or the architect on the project. The architect want to have a hold of the document that you have been able to put together in order to proceed with, of course, coming up with their prototype or what have you. So in order for them to kickstart their own session, they need to be informed that, of course, the document is now ready. Not only do you just inform them, you even make the document available to them. And that is where they sit. Whoever relies on the outcome of the task, to a large extent, needs to be informed. We can also probably maybe look at it from another perspective. The set of stakeholders who holds the right to be updated about the outcome of the task. There can be a different reason why I need to update a particular stakeholder on the outcome of a task. And that is what will determine which stakeholder needs to be informed. There can be a lot of questions around, oh, now I understand what responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed are. How then can I make use of this in ensuring that this chart is being, of course, is being put together? I've been able to provide a slide where I'll be showing you what the task is all about. I've been able to put together this chart in order to give a very good understanding as to the deliverables as well as the stakeholders available on the project. So this can, of course, to a large extent, this is a small document. If you can understand this, then irrespective of how complex a project is, you should be able to put together what is called a RACI chart. This chart is just to give you a basic knowledge of what the chart is all about. So, of course, you can continue to make it as complex as you want, in respect to how big your project is. So this is just a simple RACI chart that has been put together in respect to different stakeholders on the project, and of course, the expected involvement of stakeholders in respect to delivering each of these items identified on this chart. So you will discover that the first activity that we've got there is BRD. BRD, which can also be called the business requirement document. You will agree with me that for the BRD to be delivered, it is the business analyst that is saddled with the primary task of getting it done. And that is why the business analyst has got the letter R, which is also representing responsible for the BRD. Now, who is to be informed in respect to the BRD? You would agree with me that, of course, it is possible that at the end of putting together the BRD document by the business analyst, the solution designer want to make use of this document in order to initiate their own process. And that is why, based on the stakeholders that we have on this list, we have agreed that the solution designer, to a large extent, needs to be informed. And I already spoke about accountable, that is, who is saddled with the primary responsibility of ensuring that the quality of task done is accurate. And that is, of course, to a large extent, the Scrum Master. Who does the business analyst need to meet in order to elicit these requirements? You will agree with me, we have there the head of finance. So in order for you to put together a RACI chart, it is important for you to understand what the word RACI stands for, and how you can, of course, and how you can put this together in respect to the different stakeholders available on your project. And that will be the end of today's session. Thank you for listening. I'm sure that now, not only do you understand what RACI stands for, which is responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. Trust me, I can hear you saying that back to me. So now that we have a very good understanding of RACI, don't forget, you can always reach out by putting your comments on the session, and I will definitely attend to every questions under the comment section. Thank you very much for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day.